Antal. Sir, you're next.
Okay. First of all, let me correct the record. I was in the Army Science Board from 2018 to 2021. No longer am. I am a soldier for life. My name is John Antal. How many of you read? How many of you have read 10 books a year? Okay, great. Now give me a lieutenant or a captain or a sergeant who's read 10 books a year down here right now and get a free book. From the senior leaders course, you know all about this. The guys who know Nagorno-Karabakh, come on down here. Volunteer, let's go. Come on, hustle. You know who you are. Get down here. Here you go. All right. Outstanding. Read that. Okay, first slide, please. All right, I want to talk a little bit about battlespace disruptors. That's what I call them. These are things that are changing the methods of warfare. But I'm not going to go through all 8. Normally I have a presentation of 8. We're just going to go through the top 3. Now let me start with this. Leadership matters. Leadership matters. Technology's great, but leadership matters. We need leaders with foresight. Foresight is the ability to solve problems in the short term and create solutions for the long run. Solve problems in the short term and create solutions for the long run. We desperately need leaders with foresight. To get that foresight, you have to read, you have to study, you have to discuss and dialogue, and one of the things you should do is red team and war game. And when somebody tells you, like, what's going to happen in Ukraine, don't answer the question with, this guy's going to win or that guy's going to lose. Come up with 3 courses of action, right? That's the way you've been trained. Come up with possibilities. Give them 3 scenarios, win, lose, or draw, and what does that look like? Now, next slide. So these are the 8 top warfighting disruptors. You should take a picture of this with your smartphone. Now, the reason that these are important is because if you look at any exercise you do at any level of our operations, these will affect your operations. And if in fact you think about these and take action to mitigate some of the problems, you will in fact do better. Next slide. Now, go ahead, back up 1 slide please for me. We're going to talk about these 3 with the white stars. The transparent battlespace. The transparent battlespace. What that means is that everything on the battlespace today, all the way back to the United States of America, can be seen. They can see us when we leave home station. They can see us when we get on boats. They can see us everywhere. And there are sensors now in the battlespace, and they're growing in greater and greater number that are both in the space, in sky, and on the ground that will find you. The Ukrainians are able to find Russian command posts. Over 50 plus have been destroyed or have been hit since the beginning of the war. Many of the people operating those command posts were killed or wounded. So imagine if 50 of our command posts, battalion, brigade, division, corps, were hit within this 6-month period. That would be an amazing disruption. It's almost incredible that they're still fighting. Those kind of strikes happen because the battle space is transparent. The enemy can see you. There are no sanctuaries. You have to train as if there are no sanctuaries. And you must mask in 5 areas. The first area you know well, optical. We have to be able to take away the optical spectrum. In other words, camouflage. And of course, we're the best at camouflage in the world, right? No. What does it take to do camouflage? 3 things, I think. It takes leadership, it takes discipline, and it takes kit. In other words, the right equipment. You provide the leadership. You enforce the discipline and use the kit you've got until we get better kit. We need better kit. But we have to take away that first area in the transparent battlespace, the optical area. We have to be able to hide. Next, you have to be able to do everything you can to reduce your thermal signature. And you go, you gotta be kidding me. I have an M1 tank. How do I reduce the thermal signature? Start figuring it out. Don't wait for somebody else to solve your problems. Don't tell me what you can't do. Tell me what you can do. What if you took your M1s out and you practiced looking through thermal viewers on how you could dampen their signature in different ways? Figure out how to dampen them as much as you can. Now, we need systems in the future that are designed with thermal dampening in mind. None of our systems right now have that. So thermal is a problem, but we'll talk about some mitigation for that in a bit. The next is electronic. We are an army that swims in a sea of electrons. We emit, they find us. There are loitering munitions like the Harop, which can orbit for 6 to 12 hours depending on the version. The Azerbaijanis had it in the Second Nagorno-Karabakh War. And they had it, and they were able to find the Armenian air defense systems that used radar and destroy them. So what we have to do is we have to figure out how to limit our electronic signature. And one of the ways you can do that is think about this. Could your unit go to electronic silence? Wow. Could your unit go to electronic silence? What if you were in an assembly area and you turned everything off for 2 hours? Could you do it? And if you could, would you even know if anything was on? Figure it out. Now, that's just one thing. There's other things we can do. The next area that we have to understand in the transparent battlespace is acoustic. No kidding. Now, all of you know that when you were looking for the talk in the middle of the night in a blackout situation in training and you couldn't find it, you took your helmet off and you listened for the generators. Well, the enemy will do the same thing, but now their robots listen to you. UAS have acoustic sensors. They zero in on the explosion of guns, on generators, and they will find you with acoustics. So we have to dampen the noise. Not an easy thing to do. The next is quantum. Don't worry about quantum right now. But there are quantum sensors being developed, particularly by China, to see our stealth aircraft. You need to be aware of it. You don't need to not necessarily do it. So we have to figure out how to operate and survive on a transparent battle space. That's number one. Number two, which worries me a lot, the first strike advantage. How many of us are going to be in the first wave of the attack on China when we attack China? Right. We're not going to attack China. But China might attack us. Now, Russia says they're at war with us. And we go, we're not at war with you. Wait a minute. We're in a hybrid war right now with Russia. If your troops were being killed by Russian-made HIMARS with money from Russia, with intelligence from Russia and other equipment from Russia, would you be at war with us? Think about it. That's how they feel, and they're going to ask for revenge someday. So we're in a hybrid war with Russia now. China says they're at war with us, and we say, oh, you're just kidding. So maybe that won't happen? I don't know. But what we have to do is this. We're not going to strike first. I can't imagine a situation where you will be deployed where we're crossing into their borders. But I can imagine many scenarios, and so can you, where you're deployed to some country, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, some island somewhere, and we're waiting. And if we're waiting in assembly areas and they get the first strike advantage, we have a huge problem. How will you survive the first strike advantage? You have to think about this. The next one is top attack. The preferred method of combat today is top attack. We used to worry about the frontal glacis of the tank as being the important thing, and it still is important, but it's not the most important thing now. Then we worried about them blowing us up from the bottom, which was something that we took a technological solution to fix, and we made all sorts of vehicles so we wouldn't get blown up from the bottom. But now the IEDs fly. And all those unmanned aerial systems, particularly the loitering munitions and the unmanned combat aerial vehicles, the UCAVs, attack you from the top. There have not been major tank battles in Ukraine. There were no major tank battles in the Second Nagorno-Karabakh War. And there were lots of tanks involved. So we need to think through that. Now, the tank is very important, and combined arms is very important. But top attack, javelin, NLAWs, unmanned aerial systems, loitering munitions, these things are the cheaper and easier way to destroy systems, and it's from the top. So you must work on your top attack awareness. You must have an unmanned aerial vehicle flying above you all the time. It costs almost nothing to get a small SUAS out of the GSA catalog, put it on a tether, and have it record your training. But develop top attack awareness so you can do this. So these three things, transparent battlespace, first strike advantage, top attack, how are we going to solve the problem? How are we going to fight this? It's a multifaceted effort, but here is one way. And here's one thing that you need to do. It starts with changing our thinking. Everything happens by thinking first and then acting. Think, then act. Next slide. Write this down or copy it. We need to think masking. Masking is the full spectrum, multi-domain effort to deceive enemy sensors and disrupt enemy targeting. Deceive their sensors and disrupt their targeting. We need to deceive their sensors so they can't find us easily. So we use decoys. And you say, I don't have any decoys. And I say, get some E-type silhouettes and put them out next to your position. Put some thermal blankets on them. Or have them even better, put the thermal blankets on the ground because top attack is one of your big problems. Figure out ways to make decoys. Put smudge pots out in the field. Put up a decoy of a fake CP. Every time you set up a command post, set up a fake command post. Put up some camouflage nets in a tent that you're not going to need because the tent won't protect you. So deceiving the enemy sensors is vital, and there's lots of ways we can do it, and it's multi-domain. Putting more false positives on the battle space than they can hit, and then disrupting their targeting, disrupt their kill chain. All of you operate in units at some point, or will when you're out of school, that will have kill chains. How many steps are in your average kill chain? You need to know. How many steps are in the average enemy kill chain? You need to know. As commanders, how in fact could you disrupt the enemy's kill chain? If he finds you with sensors but can't hit you, that's good. So let me leave you with this. There's an old adage, and you've heard it earlier in this course, in this conference. And they say that amateurs study tactics and professionals study logistics. Well, let me tell you, masters of the art of war in the 21st century, they understand tactics, they understand logistics, and they understand masking. Because masking should be a principle of war. Masking is so important. We will not be able to fight in future battle spaces unless we embrace the concept. It starts with thinking, and then everything else flows from that. The TTP, the tactics, all the things that we need, the equipment will flow first from the thinking. And it's not even in our lexicon. It's not in our dictionary. Make masking something you do every day when it comes to taking care of your soldiers in the 21st century battle space. Next slide. Now, the methods of warfare are changing. Soldiers are our asymmetric advantage. You. The rest of the nations in the world can't produce what you can do. You're better than any machine. But leveraging with the right machines, you can be unbeatable. The enemy wants to defeat us by attacking that asymmetric advantage and using their technology. In order for us to change, we have to study, we have to read, and we have to continue to dialogue about the future nature of war. Next slide. Now, these are presentations and discussions that I give by MS Teams to any unit in the Army or Marine Corps, and I've done many Marines, and even some of our allies. I'm doing Australians next week, at no cost. I do this as a soldier for life. I don't charge for this. All we have to do is arrange for our schedules, and we do it by MS Teams. So if you have a LPD, an NCOPD, or you have a group discussion that you need, I'd be happy to talk with any of you about any of these 7 different topics. Next slide. That is my email address. Take a picture of this, contact me. We can work out a schedule. I will work with you. Army strong.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. And Dr. Johnson.